All right. Yes, we are back for another edition of Breaking Debates. Me and Ken Phillips are going to kick some ass talking about Star Wars, the animated series. Is.
We have two series that I'm definitely going to hit on: the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebel, which is actually currently still on the air in season 3, I believe, on Disney XD. And yes, I do watch Disney XD, just for the record.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Heck no, they got all the Star Wars because Disney owns LucasArts. So, I mean, where else are you going to get your Star Wars fix now? Oh my gosh, so much stuff. Well, see, last week we did our Star Wars The Movies rerun.
Yeah.
And we hinted on a few of these episodes last week, like the Clone Wars. I think we kind of start with the Clone Wars. We're looking at an event that happened, or at least the Clone Wars are titled, right around Attack of the Clones Episode 2, and kind of in between Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, because if you remember what we talked about last week, you had a series that was basically seeing the beginning of the Clone War, the clone troopers coming online, the buildup of the Empire from a republic, Palpatine stepping up in power, not quite yet the Empire that we know, but it gives you a lot of insight. And if you watch the series, because like me, I missed like last couple episodes of the Clone Wars just before Episode 3 came out. So my bad guy, I like Grievous, was like kind of a wuss. And I'm like, this guy was so bad in the Clone Wars. I mean, he's killing everybody. And now he's like a wimp? Why? And it always ticked me off. And I finally saw those last few episodes on Cartoon Network, and it made sense. It all made sense. So if you're watching Attack of the Clones, watch all the Clone Wars in between, and then come watch Episode 3, and it will make all the sense in the world to you. Crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
You say you've been keeping up with the Rebel series.
Yes.
Now there was another animated series that came out, but it was cartoon.
Yes. Well, they had the C-3PO R2-D2, and I cannot remember the name of that series to save my life right now.
Yeah.
Thanks to the internet, though. I'm sure I could find out real quick.
I think. Let's see. The Star Wars.
I think it was called Droids.
The Star Wars Clone Wars. That came out in 2003. That's the cartoon one. And then they came out with the 2008 version, which is the CGI one.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they started in one format and they moved to another.
Yeah.
Because the storyline still continues. Because, let's say the Clone Wars animated one that came out in 2003 is the one that really ties in the most with the Episode 2 and 3 difference.
Yeah, with the movies. Yeah.
And then this other one is basically what happened well in between both of all that stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
There was also an animated series called Ewoks, like in 1986, which I think I vaguely gave that time of the day because it just was too cartoony.
Yeah.
It was more oriented at kiddie kids.
Yeah.
And then I know there was a series called Droids, which I think was also a late 80s, early 90s series. Again, more geared towards kids to get them into Star Wars. You know, you had R2-D2 and the C-3PO and their little misadventures.
Yeah.
But, you know, we get into the really cool stuff, such as the Star Wars Clone Wars and the 2008 Clone Wars, and, of course, Rebels, which is currently on Disney XD right now. And I've been really, really thrilled with the Clone Wars Rebels because they're kind of also filling a little bit of a gap here. If you've seen Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, this is about 14 years or so after that.
Yeah.
And then about 5 years before what we see in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. That's why you see a lot of familiar characters that come in there. You know, R2-D2, C-3PO kind of show up here and there. Of course, from Anakin Skywalker and getting them in there. But it's also been a very cool series because you kind of learn a lot of stuff that happened in the Clone Wars, for one. Two, you see the end of the Clone Wars after kind of everything went to garbage and the Empire just pretty much took over the place. And the rebellion is so tiny at this point now. It was nothing like it was. before, and it's been knocked down so small, and it's just them building. You see the rebels coming, growing, trying to beat the bad guys of the galaxy. You know, you see a lot of extended universe characters coming into play also. They just added General Thrawn in there recently, which was more of an extended world character, but he is a badass, and he is definitely giving them hell in the series. And no, I did not catch up on the last 2 episodes, so I can't give you anything more than just the introduction of Thrawn in the series, because I haven't sat down and watched my DVR, which is quite full of series right now.
So is that we gonna ask the question? Is that what makes it so much appealing? Do you think when it comes between the movies and the animated series, which one do you feel has more depth to them? I mean, I'm not just saying because the Clone Wars just gives like exposition out the rear, but which one you think will appeal to fans more, or what's like the highlight? Like, you know what I mean? Would it be
That's kind of a tough one. It's kind of like watching, let's say, you see a movie. Let me think of something. Well, Star Wars gives you just a brief moment. You know, maybe a day or 2 or 3, maybe, if you think of it in reality.
Yeah.
Maybe a week or so, like, say, not Clone Wars. Revenge of the Sith would have been about a week, I guess.
Yeah.
If you would kind of time it. You know, give or take. I mean, granted, we're talking not so clustered to our time, but they're telling you a lot of information in a very short period of time. You know, there's a lot of stuff to cover in 2.5 to 3 hours in a movie.
Yeah.
The extended series, Rebels, Clone Wars 2003, 2008. They bring you into more of the story. You get more character development. They bring you more into the story. And for me, I think it's an enhancement to the movies because they can do, we're talking several years of stories. Rebels is going on its 3rd year. They're in season 3 now. Yeah. So you're getting a lot of story, a lot of character development. You're learning about Obi-Wan. You're learning about Anakin. You're learning about the rebellion. And you're seeing more than just that brief 2-hour movie. And then in reality time, you're seeing years of development into a storyline. And I think, to me, that the movies are great and they are what they are, but if you want to get more into the story, you want to learn more about Star Wars and its complexities, definitely watch the animated series. They definitely bring you more into the story. I mean, I've learned stuff that I had no idea.
Yeah,
there's all kind of neat stuff. Rebels has brought in a whole new line of stuff to me. I mean, the Clone Wars was fascinating and cool and everything, but I think Rebels has really caught my attention because I was like, Star Wars Rebels, okay, whoopee-doo. And I watched a couple episodes, and I said, okay, I'll take the bait. And then I started watching more and more, and next thing you know, I'm like, my DVR is full. So,
remember when we were having a conversation last week about the Star Wars films, and I did bring up the Clone Wars animated movie, and I did say I did enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a good introduction to the Clone Wars series. And the Clone Wars series felt like it actually fit with the movies. Like it actually felt like it was Star Wars.
It was designed to fit the EPs. The writers and the folks, Travasky and all those guys, which also did Samurai Jack, which is another one of my favorite animated series.
Yeah.
He was involved in the first movie of the Clone Wars. That 3-part special they did or whatever it was to get it started. They were involved in it, and I love their animation style because if you look at the just the box art on the DVD, you think Samurai Jack as soon as you see it, and a lot of the art style is done differently than normal series.
Yeah.
Even though, to me, I mean, CGI is great, but I kind of like that animated series. It kind of started me into it, and then they can add more realism with the CGI. It takes a little bit longer to do, but you get a lot more. And like I say, the stories have been very drawn. I mean, you got different story levels, you got different seasons with different themes. So it really, once it hooks you, it drags you in. And you will learn so much. We learn about force talking. Like we see in episode 4, episode 5 with Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And you see Ben Kenobi on Dagobah. You see Yoda on Dagobah. But how did they do it? Was that something they could always do? And you find out in the series that wasn't something that could be done originally. That wasn't in the story. That was something they kind of added to. You learn a lot about the Force and Force wielders. You see a lot about the history of the Sith.
Yeah.
You run into characters like, oh man, like Darth Maul. You find out that Darth Maul really didn't die. Spoiler alert. My bad.
I already knew. I've dabbled into the Clone Wars series. I haven't fully just sat there and watched it, but I did watch, a lot of the content. And I thought it was really fascinating with some of the different arcs and the way that the storytelling had went. Because, like you said, it does dive deep into
you
have so many different territories.
Yeah, you have so many multiple layers. That's the nice thing also, too. You're dealing with the movies, you only get maybe 1 or 2 layers, 1 or 2 subplots going on. But when you get into the animated series, you may get one show on one subplot, another show on another subplot, and then maybe one that combines them both. You find out that they tie together. So, like I say, it's very good if you're a Star Wars fan and you really want to get into the series. I think it gives you a lot more appreciation. I mean, I really, honestly, the episode 1, 2, and 3 are not my favorite in the list, although to me, again, cartoony, we've already talked about, them way overboarding too much. I do like some of the story plots. I do like some of that background in there, but they just didn't grab me. 4, 5, and 6 are always going to be my favorites. 7 is in that list of getting in there and enjoying it. I can't wait to see 8. I think we're going to see probably another animated series. Well, it depends on how Rebels is going. It might tie into Rebels eventually anyway. But we're going to see Rogue One come out here in December 16th. So I would expect to start seeing some of, maybe just like they did with the Clone Wars, how they ran into from episode 2 to episode 3. I think we might see some of the Rogue One something in there may start showing up. Even if it's a minor, it'll be a nice little crossover to see in an animated series tying into that.
Do you think, do you see them possibly incorporating the Rogue One movie as being a part of that? Having said that,
well, I don't think we're going to see another Rogue One movie. I mean, I think what's going to happen is going to be it, and that's all. It's just a point in time. And then episode 4 obviously carries on in the movie line. I don't foresee Rogue One being but a brief moment in the Star Wars Rebels series, if at all.
Yeah.
Just because I think they're just giving you, it's one of those standalone movies, although it does tie into what we've seen. But it's just going to be that one movie. That cast is going to be there, and then they're done. We're not going to see any of those guys anymore. I mean, we'll see Mon Mothma, of course. We know we see her in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, if they might have a character crossover, but I think Rogue One is going to be a very dark version of the movie. I mean, it may have its moments of humor, like they slip in all, but I personally think that Rogue One is going to be that tragic story. We always hear many Bothans die to get this to us. I think we're going to see the many Bothans dying a lot. And I think that team is going to make their mission, but they're not going to make it. I think a lot of them are going to get knocked off in that movie, and that's why they can just do it as a one movie hit. And it's going to be good. Just even the stuff we've seen so far has been phenomenal. And that's only a brief, maybe 3 minutes total combined, I think.
Do you think that the animated series tells the story of Anakin's fall to the dark side and much more clearly than the films do?
It helps. I mean, you see it happen rapidly from episode 2 to episode 3, and 3 for sure. I mean, it's locked in on 3. But yes, you do see moments in the animated series, and definitely you see that edge coming out, that darker side starting to show its face in that series. Because again, they can develop the character more, and you see the character more into what his life was prior to being known as Vader.
Yes.
So you do. And just like Obi-Wan, I mean, everybody saw Obi-Wan briefly for one movie and he got chopped up, and then he comes back in a couple real quick guest appearances, and that's it. So you never get a lot of Kenobi. But I love him in the animated series.
Yeah, he
is awesome.
Great. He's great.
I would love to see just an Obi-Wan Kenobi spinoff, and I think there's actually rumor of that or a Yoda one. I'm not sure which way they're going to go with that.
Yeah.
Again, like a one burner movie though. We're not gonna just like Rogue One. It's gonna be a one burner movie. Not now. I know they're talking about a Han Solo regular series, like 2 or 3 movies with him.
Yeah.
Which I don't know.
He's a great character, but he goes through so many things. Like,
but I don't see a Solo movie justification here.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, because he didn't even get involved into the rebellion fight until Star Wars literally came on and dropped in his lap.
Yeah.
You know, so I just don't see a good tie-in with a Solo movie. I mean, he's a popular character, everybody likes him, but I don't foresee that. And you don't even really see a lot of mention. I mean, we've seen Lando Calrissian show up in the Rebels series. And, you know, that's the only tie-in so far to any of the episodes, anything from 4 and beyond that I've seen so far. So I don't know.
There's several storylines that I do like about let's talk about the Clone Wars. There are several storylines that I just find just like really appealing to me. The one that stands out, the two that stands out the most is Asandri Ventress.
Yes.
Her storyline
from the Sisterhood,
and then the Anakin Ahsoka storyline.
Yes. In fact, if you watch the tail end of that, actually, I'm sorry, if you watch Rebels, you will see a conclusion to that.
I didn't
so far.
I see. Now I'm not gonna lie, we're gonna throw some spoilers in here, and I know I haven't seen Rebels like that, but I did see they did have a pretty good fight sequence.
Oh yes, they definitely get into it. I was kind of intrigued by we stick with the Clone Wars right now. The storyline of basically, I think it was called the Citadel, where it's just this big object in space that had 3 characters, like a father-like character who was neutral, and then a brother and a sister.
Yeah.
One was light and one was dark.
Yeah. I did see some of that.
He was challenged, and they showed him his future, and you saw Vader appear in his visioning or kind of his dream walk or whatever you want to call it. And you saw Vader for the first time show his face in that series. That was a really good one. I enjoyed that whole couple episodes of that show. I've also enjoyed watching to see how Ahsoka, the character, was growing, learning, and became such a powerful character, and she carries over into Rebels as well.
Yeah.
So you see that. I was always interested with her. So there's a lot of things going there. Watching Count Dooku and all the stuff he was doing behind the scenes, you get a lot more than just Master chop chop. You know, you get a lot more behind him too.
He was pretty beast. He was pretty beast in the Clone Wars. He was a real threat.
Yeah, he actually you got more in depth, and that's why I say we only see a few hours or days in the movie, whereas the series is over years.
Yeah,
and that allows those characters to develop and grow, and you learn so much more about them. And I think with a combination of the both, you will get a very in-depth character. It's a lot of watching. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of Friday night binges going on there. But if you enjoy the series and you want to see more behind the scenes of your characters of Kenobi and Vader and all of them, you're going to learn so much more than just a few hours of the movies that you'll see. You know, the movies are made to be intensified, over the top, bam. But the series give you so much more into it, and it's been very enjoyable. And I say, even though Star Wars, the Clone Wars, both series of those are just, they're done. You can pick up the DVDs, or I think you can watch them on Netflix if I remember right. Or I think they're on Netflix.
I'm going to binge on them. That's one of my series I need to binge on.
And then certainly Star Wars Rebels is actually a current active series, and they just started only a few weeks ago, the episode series 3. So you have time to catch up on 1 and 2. And soak in the series, because I was it was kind of hokey to me at the beginning, but it has really grown as a good storytelling. It's drawn good in the action. It's drawn good in developing the characters, and I've been very happy watching that series.
And the setting too, the differing settings, the planets.
Oh yeah, you got all these. You got many planets. You're not seeing Croissant and all these all the time. You're bouncing all over the galaxy. You're seeing different races too. You're seeing the Mandalorians in there. They've shown up, and you learn a lot about the Mandalorians, even though there's only maybe I think right now probably 3 episodes off the top of my head that ring a bell that have the Mandalorians as a featured character. But one of the members of the team is a Mandalorian who was actually cross-trained into the Empire to be a fighter pilot. So you have a very interesting crew. You have 2 Jedis. I was trying to remember what Kip is. But you have a couple aliens and a few humans and a Mandalorian and a robot. And I love the robot. He cracks me up. That dude is funny. They always have to have something in every show, and he is the comic relief in the series.
The robots and the androids, they always provide a pretty good bit of comedy relief.
Yeah, Chopper, that's his name. You have Ezra Bridger, which is our main character. You know, he doesn't even know he's really a Jedi. He learns. Kanan Jarrus is the Jedi. He's one of the last surviving members of the Jedi from that Order 66 that we remember in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Hera is the pilot. Sabine is your Mandalorian / explosives expert and pilot. Zeb is kind of an odd character. He's a warrior from his race. He thought he was the last one. Turns out he wasn't quite the last one of his race. And, of course, our comic relief is Chopper. But you definitely, you know, you want to watch the series. You want to get into it, and you will love it. I guarantee you, if you're a Star Wars fan, watch these series, and you will get hooked. And next thing you know, you're going to be sitting there Saturday night with a pile of pizzas and some Dr. Pepper next to you, and you're going to be like, oh, I didn't even know that. Oh, my God, really? And you will learn so much more than you have learned in the movies, unless you read the books. And I haven't gotten into books in a long, long time.
I read them.
You know, I used to be an avid reader, and then just the world changed. My world changed, and I wasn't so much of a reader anymore. I mean, I read a lot online because of my job requirements and interests like this. You know, I'll sit there and watch YouTube and Wikipedia, and I'll just soak everything in.
I'm in there with you, too. I'm always sitting here reading stuff on websites, always watching something on YouTube, just trying to learn, trying to, you know, grow my, my knowledge of things.
Grow your brain. Knowledge is power. Do not forget that.
And we're going to go ahead and talk about what everybody loves in this, which is why I watch it a lot sometimes, the fights.
Mm-hmm.
The fights.
Which one, the Clone Wars or the Rebels?
Well, like I said, I haven't seen, outside of the whole Ahsoka versus Vader, I haven't really seen Rebels. I did see those guys that have
the Inquisitors.
Yeah, I did see them. I like those guys were pretty cool too.
Yeah, there's been 3-4 that they've shown so far in that series. Big Brother, Little Sister. There was a crazy one, and then of course the Grand Inquisitor, which was probably the biggest one you saw the most, and he was pretty badass. He was taking names, and he didn't care. But they're not true Jedi. But there's an interesting side story to the Grand Inquisitor. He was actually a guard at the Jedi Temple. So you learn a little bit about him before he became an Inquisitor, before he got taken into the Empire and taken in and absorbed into the Inquisitor realm. And they still kind of leave them vague. I mean, they have really never dove too much into the Inquisitors except for his story. So it's there. But there was a lot of fighting in Clone Wars. And there's a lot of genius things. Obi-Wan... And the way he dressed, like half the battle armor.
Yes, that was great. That was great costume design.
And he got in there, and just his demeanor and the fighting in some of the episodes was great. You know, you still had some of the kind of the humor that they had in episode 2 and 3.
The witty humor.
Yeah, the witty humor and stuff. But then there was like some knockdown, serious. I'm gonna kick your butt. Let's go. A lot of different environments, a lot of different worlds, and everything is. I mean, you gotta imagine an animator sitting there, you know, trying to capture the essence of a fight and put it in animation.
And what they did so great about it was it didn't feel choreographed.
No, it looked very natural. I mean, we've seen these characters on the movie screen, so we kind of know what to expect. But again, we're talking more of an expanded universe of that particular character. So you see a lot more different fighting styles that they use, a lot more different tactics, how they get out of problems and solve them. You get brought into a lot more things that are going on in the animated series. Is again, that's what, it's kind of nice to bring you up and go, oh man, that's cool. I didn't even know he could do that.
Yeah, you get to see Jedi. I like, highlight some of the great highlights of the series. Or you get to see the Jedi and the Sith use their different abilities in different ways. You get to see full-on battles and what's going on.
Large scale too.
Yes.
We thought we saw some large scale battles in episode 2 and 3.
Yes.
I mean, they bring them on, and there's thousands upon thousands of droids and a handful of
they did
Jedi and a handful of Clone Wars or Clone Troopers.
There was
the Clone Trooper thing. Remember we talked? I don't know if you saw that. The Clone Troopers, where one of the Clone Troopers was dying, his buddy, and he's like, his buddy's dying, and he took him to Camino, which is the cloning world, and he found that it was some kind of thing in his head that was killing him, and it turns out that's what kind of led us to the discovery of Order 66.
Ah, okay.
And there was like probably 1 or 2, 3 episodes, maybe 4, in that storyline of the cover-up of what was going on. The cloners knew about it, but they never told anybody else.
Yeah.
And of course they were working with Dooku and Palpatine and all that going on. But that was one of those other cool storylines that brings you into what was Order 66, why was it there, how did they do it. That whole 4 or 5 episodes right there tells you. And one of the clones, because the clones were by built loyal to them. I mean, they would have never gone against them. It was built in. But they had to implant a chip to make them turn.
I did read up on some. I don't know if it was a book. Well, I was just kind of getting in contact with Zach, and Zach ain't gonna make it on. Yeah, I was reading some kind of content. I don't know if it was a book, but I think it was where some of the clones didn't turn on the Jedi, and I was always curious as to why that was. Like, was Order
functioning chip?
Yeah.
Well, we also see in Rebels you have Commander Cody. No, sorry, you have Rex. Because the 2 clone troopers that you saw commonly all the time were Cody and Rex.
Yes.
And in the Clone Wars, you have an older Rex who's in there, and he never returned on Order 66.
Okay, that addresses that.
But then I don't think they've ever explained why, or if they ever figured out what it was. They just know that Order 66 was a systematic execution of the Jedi as a whole and everything that they stood for. So it never really pans out. I was trying to see if they had any.
Did they, when they did the Star Wars Clone Wars, did any of that did any of the story address anything that was happening in the background of Revenge of the Sith? Like, did Order 66 did the show
Order 66 happened at the very tail end of the Clone Wars series, which rolled right into.
Okay.
Well, yes and no. It rolled kind of right into episode 3 because it's that time frame.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that going on, but I was trying to see if I could find where it was. It was a biochip ordered by base command through Palpatine. He was the only one that could do it. And it basically took over the clones, basically allowed them to be swayed in and brought into the Empire's use. I was trying to go back a little bit further in that and see. They called it Protocol 66 at that point in the Clone War series. But it was total obedience of the clones. But it doesn't really come back and say anything about anybody surviving or how they were able to get past the chip's activation.
Yeah.
But I know obviously one of them made it, so I mean, it did happen. Just got to figure out if there was anything written about it, about why. But I don't see. I don't
There
see
was
any
another
mention of it.
interesting. There was another interesting story that I thought they brought in the Clone Wars that I guess is because the fans like this character so much they wanted to perhaps give him a bit more background and to bring him. Of course, there's a story arc with Darth Maul,
Yes,
and not with him just returning,
he
but
actually has a brother,
yes,
and that also ties into the sisterhood, which also ties into Avant Ventress.
I want to know, did you like his brother?
I think he was a template for just enacting revenge, and that was about it.
I think he was a decent character. I don't think he stood out
No,
as
he
much
he
as
was one of those disposable characters that had a purpose later down in the storyline. But his immediate thing was just to be an assassin, to go after Dooku from the Sisterhood, is all he was. He was just pure raw sorcery power and go. He had
yeah,
no control, no anything. He was almost might as well have been a brainless clone at first, and then of course we discover Darth Maul has survived uh, his accident with a lightsaber, severing him in half. I wish he would have gone a little bit more into that. They don't go as much in
how he
depth
survived.
of how he survived, that he just survived
Yeah,
the
because you got
cyborg
to think
lower half.
it ain't even just the fact that he survived him being cut in half. He fell down a shaft, and it
Yeah,
looked like an
he should
endless.
have been flat ass dead. But it brought an old character back, and of course, he's making a run in Rebels like crazy right now. In fact, he's one of the key players in Rebels. As the season 2 ended, we learned that not only did he survive, but he also has ambitions to basically take his revenge upon everybody and keep on trucking.
I think I heard that too. I think I did see an episode on that where
And
he
in
was
the
fighting
recent episode,
somebody. He was fighting somebody that was blind. I think.
well, one of the characters on Star Wars Rebels, at the last episode of season 2, they discover what's called a holocron, and you'll see a lot of mentions of these throughout the extended
I've heard of those.
universe.
I've heard of
Basically,
those.
there's giant data storage
Huge.
units that have
Yeah.
just knowledge. They run across the fact that he's on a planet that may have one of these. The Inquisitors are following him. The Inquisitors are actually after him. They just don't know who it is. They just know it's somebody that they're going after.
Yeah.
And then we also know at this point that one of the main characters in the Rebel series has taken a holocron, but a Jedi holocron. And that both contain the combined knowledge of all the Jedi and all the Empire, or basically Sith.
Yeah.
And Darth Maul wants that cube pretty bad to get the information out of it. And in a fight to get it, he ends up blinding the character with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
And so now he's having his doubts about his abilities. He's some of the last of the Jedi. He can't even see. And then you have Maul, who gets turned off and has to run because obviously the good guys are winning this fight as Vader has shown up now, and he takes off and gets out of there like crazy. So we have a lot of things going on, but he's learning to deal with it.
I need to get into it. Like I said, I was really intrigued with the Clone Wars, the episodes that I did see. I never got a chance to sit down and watch it, but get some time. Go ahead and jump on that. Rebels, I didn't have too much hope for, but I'm glad you did give some really good reviews on it.
Yeah, Rebels has definitely been a very interesting storyline. Again, we're out more between episode 3 and 14 years after episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and 5 years before we see Star Wars. In fact, actually, one of the only characters that had made in all 3 of the original movies was a character named Wedge Antilles. And he makes an appearance in Rebels in the last episode that I watched. So, very interesting.
Yeah, I was going to ask you who, in the Star Wars Clone Wars, who is your favorite characters?
I liked Obi-Wan. I really liked Obi-Wan. I liked, as a good guy. Ventress was an interesting character. Yoda was Yoda. But I think in the story, the characters that I like though is I think really above all, I really liked Kenobi and Ahsoka in the Clone Wars series. Because Kenobi, there was so much more to him. You know, when we saw in episode 2 and 3, with him in there, you got to kind of feel for the character. But when you watch the Clone Wars, you get a lot more in depth, and the same guy voices him too, so you get that personality in there as well.
I gotta admit, I did like Obi-Wan. I did like Anakin, like just the best Anakin's ever been. He's a hell of a lot better than he was on screen.
Yes, I will definitely go with you on that one.
I did like Ahsoka, and I did like Ventress. But my three top ones would be, and this is going to be kind of a out of left field, is going to be Asanji. I need to call it Ventress, Ahsoka, and I like Luminara. I liked her character.
Interesting.
Because she was like the more serious version of Obi-Wan character, but she still had a bit of heart to her character. And she was wise. There was a lot of great moments where she was like kicking tail, and I really did appreciate them fleshing her character out. In fact, I read a book. I cannot remember the name of it. It's the oncoming storm, something like that. Where she was in the book with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and I liked her character because of how grounded, how deep the character was. And then I seen her on the series, and I watched some stuff with her in it, and I liked her character, especially kind of the motherly type relationship she had with Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm. I liked. I was trying to find the other. There was one of the generals that was really cool too. And I was trying to find.
Rex was pretty good too. Rex
was pretty cool. I like those two. They had a couple good episodes where the clones were not happy with one of the Jedi generals who was actually a traitor.
Yeah,
he was basically killing them through their own means. Basically, sending one group after the other group, and they would never see each other, but they would fight. And he was in several of the episodes. He was kind of that cool-looking character, but he was also a general, and he was a good strategist, and he was just pretty freaking sweet. He gave you just that cool look, and he was backed it up with fighting power too, because they ended up stranding on one of the planets, and he ended up being the kind of the one that kept them all together, and all the youngins that were with him. He kept everything together.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here trying to find it, and I found out how he died, which was sad. And I was like, "Oh man, he didn't even die with any dignity at all. I mean, they pretty much just mowed him when Order 66 came out. It just was horrible in the storyline."
What did you? Okay, let's go back to what we was talking about with the light side and the dark side of the Force, with the brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
How did you think that came off as? Did it seem like it worked well?
I think it was an interesting twist on them talking about balance. Everything we've seen in the series is animated and all. They always talk about having a balance. And that was kind of a physical form of that balance. You had a neutral, which was the dad. You had a light, which was the sister. And you had a dark, which was the brother. Yes. And even amongst themselves, and not having seen anybody, they didn't really think of light or dark. They were just who they were.
Yeah.
But then when you had Anakin show up on the planet, who was caught in between, the neutral was not trying to sway him to either side.
Yes.
But you got tied in between the good and the bad. You had the brother versus the sister, basically dealing with Anakin and choices that he's going to have to make. And the neutral was trying to teach him that, you have to weigh your decisions, weigh your, what's the bigger picture here, not just a short term. And that's where it kind of, to me, that's kind of what they were going for. I mean, everybody's got their own interpretation, but I think that was the whole point of that episodes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Was to see, because they show you what comes up. You see Anakin, turning to the dark side. This is a possible future. You might see this, it might not. It all depends on you.
Your choices that you make.
It's all about choices. And in the real world, you apply that. You're gonna always have the good. You're always gonna have the bad. You do the best that you can and make the best decisions. And we have like Jedi are the good guys, and Sith are the bad guys. One's power through force, control, overage, where the Jedi were free spirited, live and learn your lessons.
Yeah,
we see that same theme on not just Star Wars though. I mean, we see good versus evil, but the lesson in there is you see the overbearing empire that wants to control everything versus the Jedi, which are more like free flowing hippies with lightsabers. But if you ever watched a series called Babylon 5,
yes, I've heard of it. Haven't actually sat down and watched it.
awesome series. Watch it from beginning to end and do not stop. It's one of my favorite all-time sci-fi series ever. Babylon 5 is an awesome series. It may be old, but I promise you, you will love the series. And the same thing we're talking about, because I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I'll just say that we have a very similar conflict going on with the control and with the let you learn. And that's all I'm going to say about it. But watch Babylon 5 if you ever can catch up on it. It's a great... The first episodes are kind of rough because they weren't going to know if the series was going to go. But as they progress on, the visual effects are still top-notch today. The storylines, the plots, and subplots are excellent. You have great characters. You have great plots. Everything about that series is awesome. And J. Michael Straczynski is the guy who developed that storyline and carried it on for the 5 years that it was on. And you will thoroughly enjoy that series.
I wanted to ask this question. And it's just, I'm always doing this. We're going to deviate from the animated films. Do you think if they were to animate the movies and transition the movies themselves into a series, that would work? They could play off the animated series they have now, but actually expand on the movies. Like the first, the Phantom Menace be one movie, and they dive into what's going on with Anakin, what's going on with Padme, what's going on with Obi-Wan, and, cycle those three storylines, but eventually come out to the, expand on what's going on.
Well, they
kind of a pretty good idea.
They kind of did that with Clone Wars, really. Because they kind of fill in those gaps with the animated series, and they did an excellent job. Again, if we go to a series, we get much more information out of it, and you learn a lot more. And some of those series were like 3 years, so you got a lot of development time in there. If they were to, I would be curious to do an animated, granted what happens with episode 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Now, I would like, depending on how they're going to go with this, because I'm really not sure which way they want to go with it. I've read the expanded universe stuff, and you have a good idea what they should do. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. But I would like to see a continuation, not just the Clone Wars, where you had a series that fills in the gaps in there. 7, 8, 9. Throw a series that comes in a little bit between 7 or maybe between 8 and 9. Throw in a series in there.
7, 8, or 9. They don't necessarily follow the book series. I've read some. Yeah, it's his own thing.
Yeah, it's kind of doing its own thing. But if because with 1, 2, and 3, they filled in the gaps very well with the animated series. You crossed over very easily from 2 to 3, and with Rebels going from 3 to 4. We didn't get anything between 6 and 7. There's nothing been there. That would be interesting because there's a lot of really cool stuff that happens after the Empire falls. So something between 6 and 7 as an animated series would be good.
Yeah. Especially with
they could have carried on just like they did with Rebels. I mean, Rebels is filling in a lot of gaps right now. They could do a series between 7 and 8. And carry on if they wanted to. I mean,
I would want to see a series between 5 and 6. Because that would give us time to
Empire time.
Yeah, that'll give us time to see what the how the Leia, Luke, and them are actually progressing against the Empire. Like that'll be a good stretch right there to see what's going on.
They could do that. I mean, we do have a lot of story ability here. Plus, again, we have expanded universe too. And there are so many stories in the expanded universe that you won't ever. I mean, it would be a lot to put into a movie, but it would be great to throw them into an animated series.
Ooh, I did not realize what time it was.
Yeah, we got a few minutes. We got to bug out of here.
Yeah, we gotta go ahead and bug out. About that time for
Yeah,
Nick.
so
Go ahead and go
next
to work.
week we were talking about what? The movie remakes?
I had ended up getting things twisted. Yeah, we can go ahead and just jump on movie remakes. Should there? Which movies should have remakes? Best and worst remakes. What are the general rules to make a good remake? You know, things of that caliber.
Sounds like worthwhile to me. Definitely. So,
Right.
folks, thanks for joining us this week. We're going to punch out of here. Like, subscribe, ask us questions, put it on there. Subscribe to Narik Chase. We're usually here every Wednesday around 7 o'clock Central Time in the United States. So
we're a little bit late today, but that's okay. We had a good conversation.
So come on back. Join us next week.
And we're going to catch you guys later. Thanks for joining us. Narik Chase, Ken Phillips, we are signing out.